Good evening, welcome. We're on Daf Chav Beis, which is page 22, Masechta Sotah. The Gemara is quoting what we learned in last Daf. Itmar, Kara V'Shana, a person learned and he reviewed, he knows the text well, but V'lei Shimesh Tabedei Chachamim, did not serve, which means hang out with and learn from the actual scholars. Rabbi Elazar Eimer Reza Ama Aretz. Rabbi Elazar says this is an ignoramus. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani Eimer Reza Bor, someone that's empty, he doesn't have any Torah knowledge. Rabbi Yana Eimer Reza Kuti, it's let's call it a Gentile. Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov Eimer Reza Mogush. This is someone who is like a sorcerer. Omar Nachman Bar Yitzchak Mestabrak Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov. This is like, it makes sense to go according to Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov. The Amri Inshi Ratin Migusha V'layada my Amar Tani Tana V'layada my Amar. It's the same thing. A person is a sorcerer. They're saying stuff. They don't know what they're saying. They're just telling people that this is the future or whatever. Similarly, this person who didn't properly learn and get the training and so on, he's just reading a Mishnah. He doesn't know what he's saying. Similar to the sorcerer. Tana Rabbanan. What is an Amma Aretz? One who does not read Shema in the morning and at night with its brachas. They say it's what the definition of Amma Aretz is called someone that doesn't put on tefillin. Anyone who doesn't have tzitzis in his garment. And anyone that has children, he does not raise them to learn Torah. Others say, even if he learned and he reviewed and he knows his stuff, but he did not serve scholars, which means he didn't learn from them the beyond the text, that is an amaretz. Is a board. If he learned and he didn't review, that is a board. He didn't read or review. Plant the seed of man, the seed of animal refers to the person that learned, that didn't learn, and didn't review. He told his told his son, you should fear Hashem and the king. And with Shainim you should not mix, don't hang out with them. What does it mean? These are the ones that learn halachas, which means they only learn halachas, but they don't have shimush tamidei chachamim. This is obvious. That's what it means. Shainim. What are you trying to tell me that shainim means those that learn halachas? I would think shainim bechet, those that are well versed in averes, which means they do it a lot. And so the Gemara is telling you that's not what it means. It means those that learn, but they don't have shimush tamidei chachamim. Once a person learned, transgressed an avera, and he did it multiple times, he keeps doing it, in his mind, he feels like it's okay because he's so used to it, he doesn't feel the severity of it. That he should not hang out with such people. Tana, we learned you think it means those that are we learned that the Tanoim, which means those that only learn Mishnah, and again, it means they don't have Shimush, Tamidei Chachamim, they don't have time spent with the actual teachers, the destroyers of the world, the ruiners of the world. You think it means they actually ruin the world? They start to teach or to take out laws, rules, halacha, from their learning, which is not the right way to do it. You can't just take a Mishnah because you learned it and say what halacha is. You have to go through the next steps and understand how the process of halacha happens, and so on. Why do you say that they're the ones that are ruining the world? They're settling the world. They're learning Mishnah, which means it's like building the world. Same thing we learned, that they are deducing laws from their learning of the Mishnah, which is not the way to. It's too early in the stage or in the process to give out halachas of how to behave. Isha Prusha v'chulu. We learned in a Braisa, Besula Tzlainis, a girl who spends a lot of time in prayer, Almana Shevavis, and Almana which speaks to all of her friends and neighbors and so on. The Katan Shleikol Lechadashav, and a minor, which will explain what it means, that didn't finish his months, which simply means he was born prematurely. These are the ones that are ruining the world. It's not the case. We learned that Yiras Chet and Psula, we learned the idea of fear of sin from the Psula. The Kibul Schar Me'almana, the concept of receiving reward, we learned from Almana. Yiras Chet Me'Psula, where you learn the Yiras Chet from Psula? Rabbi Yechanan Shammah Lahi Psula the Nafla Appa. Rabbi Yechanan once heard there was a girl who fell on her face. And she said, "Ribeinu Shaleilam Hashem Barasa Gan Eden, you created Gan Eden, Barasa Gehenna, you created hell, purgatory. You created righteous people and wicked people. People should not sin or end up sinning because of me." So you learn a positive thing from the Psula. She davened. You said before that the Psula that davens a lot, that somehow it's Mevale Elam, it's the rulers of the world. Kibul Schar Me'almana, we learned the idea of receiving reward from, hello Michael, hi, from a widow. There was this widow. She had a shul in her neighborhood, a certain widow. However, nonetheless, kol yema, every day, every day she would come and daven in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yechanan, which is in a different neighborhood. So he told her, "Biti don't you have a shul in your own neighborhood? Why do you have to come here?" So she told him, "Rebbe, actually do not have reward for the steps that I've taken." In other words, the travel that I have to come to further distance to come to shul, is a reward involved. So you see that there's reward. You learn reward from this. Rabbi Yechanan came before and he said that psulat silentness, psulat davens a lot, is somehow negative, and Almana that's walking around all the neighbors and so on is also negative. Kika Amar Kigain. So one answers what he was talking about is Kigain Yechani Basar TV. Like Yechanan Basar TV, who was the story of Yechanan Basar TV is briefly, she was a sorcerer, and when a woman was in labor, she started to say all these different types of sayings and words and sorcery to make it hard for the baby to be born. And then they would have such a difficult time giving birth, they would run to her or send someone to her and say, "Daven for my wife," or whatever it is, and she should have a baby, that should go easy delivery. Then she would run into a room and stop these sorcerers that she was doing, the various words and things she was saying, and then the baby would be born. And everyone would say, "Wow, she's amazing," and they would pay her and so on. One time, there was a worker in the house, and the worker saw that she ran out for something, and she heard noises, and she went into the room, and she saw a container with whatever these lachashis are, various different types of spiritual things or impure things that sorcerers use, and she opened the lid of the jar to let them out, and all of a sudden the baby was born. So they realized what it was. The Gemara says, we don't mean a psula that speaks that davens a lot. It's not about davening. It's about mumbling and saying these types of things in a way that is bringing about sorcery. What does it mean? A young one that didn't finish his months. What it really means is Talmid Chacham hamevayit b'Rabbeisav. It's a Talmid Chacham that rebels with his teachers. Rabbi Abba Amar is a Talmid Umeira. It means a Talmid Chacham that didn't reach, a Talmud didn't actually reach the stage of being able to issue verdicts and paskin things, and nonetheless he goes and he says what he thinks, and he shares different rulings. What's this pasuk that says that many have fallen, or the strong ones, all those that were killed? It goes both ways. Half of the pasuk refers to Talmid Chacham that didn't reach the right finish his learning properly, and he's already issuing verdicts, and that's one negativity. The other one is someone Talmid Chacham that did learn and does know, and still doesn't help others, doesn't teach, doesn't show. That is the other half of the pasuk. Ad kama. To what stage? How do you know when a person is ready for hidah, to teach or to issue verdicts? So what it says, ad al-bayin shnin, till 40 years. It's not the case. Why do you say it's 40 years? But Rabbi Eri, Rabba was giving rules before he was 40. He passed away when he was 40, so it's not possible. What answers B'Shavin, he was equal to the other ones. In other words, he was so learned, he was able to do it. He's an exception to the rule. Umakis prushin v'chulu. Tan Rabbanan. We learned there's Shiva Prushin Hein. There's 7 types of called aesthetics. The one will explain what they are. But Parash Shichmi, Parash Nikvi, Parash Kizoi, Parash Miduchya, Parash Machi Vasi Vesanu. And there's 7 types. Parash Mi'ava, Parash Mi'ira. So and one that does it out of love, and one that does it out of fear. And the Gemara will explain momentarily. Parash Shichmi, Zel Eisa Ma'isa Shchem, someone that does the actions of Shchem, which basically means they do mitzvahs not l'shem shamayim. The people in Shchem, they had a bris, but the only reason why they did a bris is because their mayor or their governor abducted Dinah, and the deal was she can marry Shchem if they all have a bris. They didn't do it for the right reasons. Parosh Nikvi Zamankiv Raglav. That's a person that when he walks, he bangs his feet against the wall in some display of humility or self-degradation. It's not coming from a good place. Parash Kizaya or Nacham Zamak is done like Salim, someone that is taking out blood, which is a form of a healing process, but he's doing it in a way that it's spritzing on the walls. Parash Miduchya, the Mishpa Ki Miduchya. He folds himself over, he walks around like as if he's handicapped or someone that's bent over, which is also a false display of humility. What does this mean? When a person says, tell me what my problem is, what I did wrong, and I'll fix it. That seems to be a good thing. Sorry, not what did I do wrong. What it seems to mean is, what do I need to do, and I'll do it. Tell me my requirement. What's wrong with that? What it says, because what this person is saying is, tell me exactly what I have to do, and I'll do it, and no more. And that type of attitude is considered to be negative. Don't learn that he's an aesthetic out of Ava or out of Yira, love for Hashem or fear of Hashem. Lost the place. Because Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, a person should always do mitzvahs, even if it's not lishma. The Ava and Yira means a person is only serving Hashem because the Ava he loves, he wants the reward, or Yira he's afraid of punishment. And somehow the Gemara is implying that it's a negative way of serving Hashem. So the Gemara argues and says, 1 second, we learned that a person should serve Hashem even if it's not for the right reasons. For reward is fine, or he's afraid of punishment is also fine, because if you do it even not for the right reason, as long as you're doing it, in the end it'll come to be for the sake of heaven. Whatever is concealed is concealed. Whatever is revealed by a human court. Whatever we see, we could deal with. Whatever we don't know, we don't know. But the great court, which is the heavenly court, this gundi is going to pay back from those that are hiding and covering over, and they're displaying some false level of piety or some false level of humility, but they're not really at that level. Amar Yani Malka said to his family, don't be afraid of those that are aesthetics and those that are not aesthetics. You should be afraid of those that are fakers. They make as if they are some kind of holy and aesthetic people. And really, they behave like Zimri, which was sinning in an immoral way, but they're requesting reward like Pinchas, who got a tremendous reward. So he's telling his family, don't be so afraid of those that are a little bit, discreet or whatever. That's not the problem. The problem is that they're making as if they are something which they are not. Start a new Mishnah. With this, we'll finish. Shimon says, which is different than the Mishnah we had previously, that zchus does not help for the bitter waters, and if she's guilty, even if she has merits, it won't help her. And if you're going to say that it does help, then what you're doing is all the women that are drinking it and nothing happens, you're making it insignificant. They're going to say like nothing. I sinned and I drank it and nothing happened because it's delayed. And those that come out exonerated, we're going to say no, they're really guilty. They probably have a schos of some sort. So you're ruining it for the good ones and for the process. Rabbi says like this. The schus will help, but she's not going to have any of the rewards yet. She's not going to see any of the positive outcomes On the contrary, she starts to decay, and then when she dies in the same way that a Sotah would die, just a little bit later. And therefore, it'll be noticeable, and it won't have that problem of people thinking that it doesn't work, or that those that are innocent are going to say they're really guilty. It's just delayed, because the time will tell. If her mincha, her offering, got impure before it was brought, actually before it was sanctified into the vessel that was used, so the Mishnah says it's like all the other menachos, all the other offerings, and you should redeem it. You pay the money goes to the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan, and you could actually use it for whatever you want. But if once it was sanctified in the Kli, then if it's like all the other offerings that something happened to them, they became impure, they can't be used, they have to get burnt. I think the Mishnah goes on to say which are the ones that other cases that the menachos get burnt. If she admits to her guilt, or Eidim witnesses come and say that she's guilty, or she refuses to drink, or that her husband says, I changed my mind, I don't want to give her the drink, or that her husband is with her on the way to Yerushalayim, which is prohibited. And anyone that is married to a kohen, because their punishment is different, and so on and so forth. Be continued in Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow.